let's talk about rare Beatles records. Did you know that one recently sold for $790,000?
Yeah, that one was special. It was Ringo's personal copy of the White Album. The early White Albums had a number stamped on the cover, and they gave Ringo number 000000001.
Yep. I can't believe Ringo sold it.
Well, to fully grasp why a single piece of vinyl can fetch an astronomical price like that.
Bordering on $1 million, yeah.
Right. I mean, you have to look at the perfect storm of 4 different factors. First, as you just mentioned, is that serial number.
Number 1.
Exactly. Early original UK pressings of that 1968 double album, they were individually stamped with a unique serial number to mimic a limited edition art print. So Ringo Starr possessed the absolute legendary, ultra desirable number 1.
Which is incredible in itself. But, a piece of cardboard manufactured in 1968 doesn't usually survive looking brand new.
No, definitely not.
Even if it belonged to a rock star.
And that brings us to the second factor, which is the condition. For over 35 years, Ringo Starr kept this record meticulously preserved inside a bank vault.
Wow. Literally in a vault.
Literally. We were talking about a completely climate-controlled environment. So it was sold in near-mint condition, entirely shielded from the 3 greatest enemies of vintage vinyl.
Sunlight, moisture.
And general handling, yeah. But the third factor driving that price is the historical provenance.
Right, because there was a massive rumor surrounding this specific copy for, decades?
Oh, absolutely. For years, rumors circulated wildly in the collecting community that John Lennon had practically shouted his way into snagging the very first pressed copy from the factory.
I think Paul McCartney even corroborated that rumor at one point, didn't he?
He supposedly did, yeah.
So let's help our Beatles fans figure out if they've got anything really valuable in their own collections.
That is exactly what we need to do, because the harsh reality of record collecting is that most vintage vinyl is incredibly, almost painfully common.
Right. We are talking about the biggest band in the history of recorded music.
Millions upon millions of copies were pressed. If you look at albums like Abbey Road or Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, those sold over 30 million copies globally.
So to put it bluntly, if you are at a weekend flea market and you see a well-loved, scratched-up copy of Abbey Road from a standard 1970s reissue campaign...
You're not holding a lottery ticket.
Right. You are probably holding something worth maybe $10 to $20.
Exactly.
So today, our mission is to separate the $10 flea market junk from the museum-grade artifacts. We want to identify the specific, verifiable markers.
Things like factory errors, design changes, and limited exports.
Yeah, the things that turn old plastic into a hidden fortune.
Precisely. But before we start hunting for ghost images and serial numbers, we must establish the absolute baseline rule of vinyl value.
Okay, let's unpack this. And I have to push back a little here, representing the music purists listening.
Okay, go ahead.
Records are fundamentally meant to be played. They're meant to be enjoyed. It's like treating old vinyl like a vintage sports car. A rare model is great, but if you used it to go off-roading on a gravel driveway, the value tanks. But why are investment-level collectors so completely ruthless about a tiny paper scuff on the label or a little wear on the cardboard cover if the record still plays perfectly fine when you drop the needle on the turntable?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, investment-grade collectors are not buying a listening experience. They are buying a perfectly preserved historical artifact.
Ah, I see.
They utilize the strict gold mine grading guide to evaluate these items. Let me break down the physical tiers.
Please do.
At the very top is mint. This is absolutely perfect in every conceivable way, typically brand new, factory sealed, or completely unplayed since the day it was manufactured.
Which is almost impossible to find.
Very rare. Below that is near mint. This is a nearly perfect record showing no obvious signs of wear. The vinyl itself retains its full original glossy shine from the factory.
Right.
And the cardboard jacket has no creases, no split seams on the edges, and importantly, no ring wear.
Wait, I want to talk about ring wear because you see this on almost every old record.
You do.
It's that faded white circular outline on the cardboard cover. How does that physically happen?
It is basic friction over time. The vinyl record inside the cardboard sleeve is heavy, and it has a raised circular profile.
Oh, sure.
When records are packed tightly on a shelf for decades, that raised disc essentially acts like a slow-motion sanding block.
Just grinding away at the cover.
Exactly. Every time you pull the record out or push it back in, it rubs against the inside of the cover, eventually wearing the ink completely off the outside.
That makes perfect sense. So what comes after near mint?
The next tier down is very good plus. In the high-end market, this is considered the absolute bare minimum for investment grade.
So what flaws are allowed there?
It might show light signs of being played, like faint paper scuffs from sliding in and out of the inner sleeve, or maybe tiny spindle marks near the center hole where someone missed the peg on the turntable.
But it was clearly handled with care.
Right. And finally, we drop to very good, where surface noise becomes highly evident during playback, and you might see scratches deep enough to actually feel with your fingernail.
And a scratch is physically devastating to the audio.
Completely.
Because if you think of the groove of a record like a microscopic canyon, right? The turntable needle is riding along the walls of that canyon to read the sound waves.
That's a great analogy.
Even a microscopic speck of dust or a tiny scratch from a fingernail is essentially a boulder blocking the needle's path. It violently throws the needle around.
Which is what creates those loud pops and hisses.
Exactly.
Wow.
So the key takeaway for you listening at home is that every single flaw costs money. Split seams, someone writing their name in ballpoint pen across the label, or that ring wear.
Those instantly destroy premium pricing. Condition is the ultimate gatekeeper.
So condition comes first.
Always. Now, moving from how a record is flawlessly preserved, we have to look at one of the most valuable records in existence.
Which ironically is a record the label actively tried to destroy.
Yes. I am talking about the scandalous butcher cover of the American album Yesterday and Today, released in June 1966.
I am still in sheer disbelief at the concept of this photo shoot. It was originally titled A Somnambulant Adventure, shot by the avant-garde photographer Robert Whittaker.
Right, Robert Whittaker.
The band was supposedly bored of standard, smiling promotional shoots, so they dressed up in white butcher smocks and covered themselves in raw, bloody cuts of meat and dismembered plastic baby dolls.
It was a very dark concept.
How did the executives at Capitol Records ever think this was a viable idea for a family-friendly pop band?
Well, they absolutely didn't. The band pushed aggressively for it as a dark, satirical art concept.
And Capitol just caved.
Basically. Capitol reluctantly bowed to their biggest cash cow. But the moment the album shipped out to distributors and radio DJs across America,
Oh boy.
the public backlash was instantaneous and severe. It threw Capitol executives into a total panic.
I can imagine.
They immediately launched a massive logistical nightmare called Operation Retrieve. They sent urgent memos demanding distributors halt all sales, and they physically recalled an estimated 750,000 copies overnight.
Trying to recall 750,000 physical items scattered across the country in 1966 before computerized inventory is mind-boggling.
It was completely unprecedented in the music industry. And the chaos of that recall created 3 distinct rarity states that collectors aggressively hunt for today.
Okay, break those down for us.
The Holy Grail is the first state. These are original copies that were never pasted over or returned to the factory. Someone bought it on day one, or a DJ kept their promotional copy.
So it's the raw original cutter.
Exactly. And there is a crucial rarity difference within that first state. The mono version, which has the catalog number T2108, is rare. But the stereo version, ST2108, is incredibly scarce, fetching massive premiums.
But Capitol managed to get hundreds of thousands of copies back to their warehouses. They didn't just throw them all in a landfill and eat the manufacturing cost, did they?
No, the executives needed to save money, so they created the second state. Capitol simply printed a new, harmless, totally boring photo of the band sitting around a steamer trunk.
Right.
And they literally glued it directly over the shocking butcher image on the cardboard sleeves they got back.
Okay, so if you are digging through a stack of records and you see that boring steamer trunk photo on the cover of Yesterday and Today, how do you know if it's just a standard printing or if you're holding a secret second state paste over with the meat underneath?
Here's the visual secret. You have to look incredibly closely at the white background area on the right side of the trunk cover, about an inch to the left of the word Today.
Okay, look at an inch to the left.
Because the new sticker was mostly white in that area, it wasn't fully opaque. If you see a faint, dark, upside-down V-shape bleeding through the cardboard, you found a paste over.
Wait, what is that V-shape?
That shadow is the dark black V-neck of Ringo Starr's turtleneck from the covered butcher photo underneath.
That is a brilliant piece of optical trivia. It's like a photographic ghost bleeding through the cardboard.
It's exactly like that.
And that naturally brings us to the third state. This is when a collector takes one of those second state paste overs and decides to play amateur art restore.
Oh, yes!
They carefully use steam or chemical solvents or peeling tape to painstakingly remove the top trunk photo layer, revealing the hidden butcher artwork underneath.
Which is a massive gamble. Peeling it is so risky. The adhesive they used in 1966 was incredibly strong.
I bet.
One wrong move with the steam, and you end up tearing John Lennon's face right off the underlying butcher cover, ruining the value entirely.
Ouch.
Yeah, but a professionally and beautifully peeled third state still commands a very high price in the collector market.
So we just talked about intentional destruction and a frantic U.S. recall. Now I want to shift geographically back to the U.K. origins in March 1963.
Okay, going back to the beginning.
Yeah, to look at a subtler, entirely accidental rarity.
The debut album, Please Me.
Picture this.
Yeah.
You are a fan in the UK in 1963, and you go to the local shop to grab their first full-length record. Now, if you go digging through record bins today, you will see a massive amount of the familiar black and yellow Parlophone labels.
Sure.
But those aren't the real treasure. We were looking for a label design that only existed for a matter of weeks.
Right. When the band first exploded, Parlophone wasn't entirely prepared for the volume. The absolute earliest batches of the debut album were pressed using Parlophone's old-school corporate label design.
Which looked like what?
It features gleaming gold foil text stamped onto a solid black background.
So you just look for gold text instead of yellow.
That is the first step, but the color isn't the only marker of a true black and gold first pressing. You need to check the publishing credits printed on the label itself.
Okay, what are we looking for there?
For songs like I Saw Her Standing There and Misery, the label must specifically credit Dick James Musco. Very shortly after this pressing, the band formed their own publishing company, and later pressings changed that credit to Northern Songs.
Got it.
You also need to verify the alphanumeric matrix numbers physically stamped in the runout groove, XEX 421-1N for mono, and YEX 94-1N for stereo.
Wait, let's pause on that. The stereo version is the real jackpot here, but why? I always assumed stereo was the default.
You have to look at the technological context of 1963. Mono record players, which only had one speaker channel, were the absolute standard in British homes.
Oh, that makes sense.
Stereo equipment was incredibly expensive, mostly reserved for serious audiophiles. Because there was almost no consumer demand, EMI manufactured the stereo versions in tiny microscopic quantities compared to the mono run.
So it was just an afterthought.
Stereo was practically an afterthought. So today, while a mono black and gold might fetch £1,000 to £2,000, a stereo copy in near mint condition can easily fetch $10,000 to $15,000.
Wow. So we have gone from the visually chaotic butcher cover to the striking gold foil of their debut. Let's fast forward to 1968, where we are looking at a stark blank canvas.
Yes.
The double album, officially titled simply The Beatles, universally known as the White Album.
Designed by the pop artist Richard Hamilton. It was a minimalist masterpiece. It stood in direct, intentional contrast to the wildly colorful, psychedelic explosion of Sgt. Pepper from the year before.
Oh, wait.
The cover was entirely white, with the band's name blindly embossed into the cardboard.
Here's where it gets so interesting. We talked at the very beginning about Ringo Starr's personal copy, number one. The label decided to sequentially stamp numbers on the front cover of these early UK pressings to make a mass-produced item feel like a limited art piece.
Exactly.
But what happens if you were up in the attic and you find a copy that just has a somewhat low number stamped on the front? Not number 1, but maybe number 40.
The psychology of the collector market scales beautifully based on those stamped UK serial numbers. Human nature drives collectors to want a lower number than their peers.
Right, it's a status thing.
If you have a copy numbered between 5 and 100, you're looking at $10,000 to $25,000 or more.
Amazing.
Numbers 101 to 1,000 sit in the $5,000 to $10,000 range. If you fall in the 1,000 to 10,000 bracket, that's still $1,500 to $3,500.
Still a great payday.
And surprisingly, even numbers from 10,000 up to 100,000 can fetch $400 to $1,200.
But wait, if I find a white album with the number 99 on it, I shouldn't immediately book a luxury vacation. There is a massive trap here.
There is a catch, yes.
A low number on the cover isn't enough to guarantee those prices, is it?
It is what collectors call the completeness trap. The White Album was a lavish physical package. To get top dollar, the album must include all the original inserts that came from the factory.
What came inside it?
Well, it must have the large fold-out lyric poster, and importantly, the 4 separate glossy portrait photographs of John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr.
And if they're gone?
If any of those photos or the poster are missing, the overall value of the package drops by 50% instantly.
Which makes perfect sense when you think about the physical survivability of those items.
Right.
Teenagers in 1968 were taking those posters and photographs and tacking them up on their bedroom walls with tape and thumbtacks.
Exactly.
Finding them perfectly preserved, tucked safely inside the cardboard sleeve half a century later is incredibly rare.
A pristine cover means nothing if the guts of the package were destroyed by a teenager's wall collage in 1969.
Right. Okay. So we've talked about intentional art packaging, like the numbering systems and the butcher's mocks. But I want to explore the chaotic world of factory accidents on the assembly line.
Ah, the misprints.
Yeah. With millions of these records rolling off the presses at top speed, quality control must have slipped. How does a simple typo or a high-speed audio engineering error equal serious cash?
Let's do a fast-paced roundup of human error, starting with the famous loud cut of the album Rubber Soul from December 1965. When the initial cutting engineer at the factory mixed the album, they used an unusually high audio modulation level.
Meaning they basically cranked the volume to the absolute maximum during the physical cutting process.
Yes, and that had severe physical consequences. Bass frequencies take up a wider physical space in a vinyl groove.
So it's physically wider.
Right. Because the audio was cut so hot, the heavy bass in those deep grooves literally caused the needles on cheap record players across the UK to violently jump out of the track and skip across the record.
Oh, wow.
EMI was flooded with complaints and had to halt production immediately to remaster it at a lower volume.
So the error actually broke the listening experience, but collectors want it anyway.
Exactly. Because it is rare. If you find a UK monocopy with matrix numbers ending in -1, specifically XEX579-1, you have the rare heavy bass loud cut, which fetches a solid premium.
What about simple spelling mistakes on the paper labels? Does a misspelled word actually bump the price, or do collectors just view that as a defect?
Oh, collectors love a typo because it proves you have the absolute earliest run before a supervisor caught the mistake.
Makes sense.
On the 1963 album with the Beatles, you have to check the publishing credit for the song "You Really Got a Hold on Me." On the earliest pressings, it is blatantly misspelled as Domion instead of Dominion Music.
Domion, wow.
That one missing syllable adds $100 to $200 to the value.
$100 for a missing IN. What else?
On the 1966 Revolver album, look at the final track on side 2. Some early UK stereo labels misprinted the title as "I Gotta Get You Into My Life" instead of the correct "Gotta Get You Into My Life."
Adding the I.
Right. Then you have the 1969 Abbey Road first printing. On the rear cover, the iconic green apple logo is physically misaligned, sitting noticeably too far to the left of the track list. Literally just a printing press operator blifing a plate makes the cardboard more valuable.
We also have to talk about geography. What happens when a record is pressed in the UK, but it wasn't meant to stay there?
You are talking about rare export pressings. Sometimes EMI pressed albums at their facility in Middlesex specifically to be shipped to overseas military bases or to countries that did not have their own vinyl pressing plants.
How do you spot those?
These feature Parlophone labels, but they use CPCS or PPCS catalog numbers. If you find one of these in a domestic collection, it is completely out of place and highly prized by completionists.
So we have journeyed from Ringo Starr's climate-controlled bank vault down to the microscopic canyons of vinyl groove, through butcher smocks and misaligned apples.
We covered a lot of ground.
If you are listening to this right now and you want to appraise your own stash without getting ripped off, what is the ultimate how-to?
The ultimate lesson is that accurate information is your greatest asset. Do not just look at the album cover and guess. You need to look at the dead wax.
The dead wax being that glossy, ungrooved blank space of vinyl between the final music track and the paper label in the center.
Exactly. If you look closely at that blank space under a good light, you will find an alphanumeric code physically stamped directly into the vinyl by the metal plates at the factory.
Okay.
That is your matrix code. You take the catalog number printed on the spine of the jacket, and you combine it with that exact matrix code. Type both of those into dedicated collector databases like Discogs or PopPsych.
But there is a massive trap when looking up prices online. You have to know the difference between what someone is asking and what the market is actually paying.
That is the golden rule of appraising. You must sort your search by sold history, never by asking price.
Because anyone can ask for anything.
Right. Anyone with an internet connection can list a scratched, water-damaged copy of Meet the Beatles for $10,000. That does not mean it is worth $10,000. The sold history tells you the undeniable truth of what collectors are actively paying.
Solid advice.
And if you do realize you have something verified and valuable, avoid your local pawn shops. Seek out specialized vintage record stores or established auction houses like Heritage or Bonhams.
So what does this all mean for us today? At the end of the day, we are talking about mass-produced consumer goods. Millions of pieces of plastic and cardboard.
It forces us to think about how ordinary objects transition into historical artifacts. These records were pressed to be disposable, everyday entertainment for teenagers in the 1960s.
Right, they were just pop music.
They were meant to be played at parties, stacked on top of each other, and eventually thrown away. Yet, through the sheer unprecedented scale of Beatlemania, they became accidental archives.
They track history.
They track the exact manufacturing heartbeat of the 20th century. Every typo on a label, every panicked factory recall, every evolution in audio engineering is literally frozen in wax, waiting for someone to drop the needle.
Until next time.
When you listen.
Your mind conducts its own symphony. Hey, do you like free stuff?
Yeah, of course, especially when it's Beatles stuff.
Well, you're in luck, because our new book, Beatles Rewind, is free today on Amazon and YouTube.
Huh. That massive book we just wrote called Beatles Rewind, Essential Stories of John, Paul, George, and Ringo, and the music that never gets old.
That's the one. We're giving it away today.
Are you crazy? I worked my ass off on that book, and now you're giving it away.
Guilty as charged. So there's 2 ways to get it free. You can download the ebook free from Amazon, or listen to the entire audiobook, all 12 hours, free on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I forgot. Okay, we'll put the links in this video description for the free ebook and audiobook. And or you, listening, if you have a browser handy, for the book, just go to BeatlesRewindBook.com. That will get you to the Amazon book page.
Right. And for the audiobook, you can go to BeatlesAudio.com, and that will get you the YouTube audiobook.
Anything else you want to give away today?
That's it for today.
Oh, okay. Beatles forever.